Part 30. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 291. She smiled slightly when she saw her baby daughter's shy drunken look, and winked at Li Yuan. Let's stop drinking today. I'll clean up the kitchen. You two young people, go back to the room and talk. Xiao Li, Xiao Yueliang is a little drunk. Take her back to the room to rest. This cheap mother-in-law is so considerate. She is really a gold medal assistant. Li Yuan smiled and nodded, secretly giving Gu Langzhen a thumbs up in his heart. The mother-in-law's assists were sent to this extent, and all preparations were made for the next things. If Zhong Tingyu couldn't be dealt with in this situation, then he could only blame himself for being incompetent. Li Yuan reached out to support the drunk Zhong Tingyu, and whispered, Xiao Yueliang, let's go to the bedroom to rest first. I have a gift for you. Zhong Tingyu stared at Li Yuan with a blurred look, leaning on him, and couldn't speak very clearly. Senior, I don't want a gift. I want you to stay with me all the time. Silly girl, of course I will stay with you all the time. Li Yuan touched Zhong Tingyu's head lovingly, helped her to the master bedroom, and let her sit on the bed. Little Moon, wait a minute, I'll go get the gift. Yeah, Zhong Tingyu had a smile on her face. She was drunk and became bolder. Li Yuan quickly came to the living room, took the gifts and flowers he bought to the bedroom, and gently closed the bedroom door. When Zhong Tingyu saw Li Yuan close the bedroom door, her already blushing face instantly became slightly hot. Her heart was like a deer beating wildly, with a little more nervousness, and expectation. Li Yuan came to Zhong Tingyu with a rose in one hand and a gift in the other. Looking at the perfect goddess in front of him, he suddenly felt a little nervous. Li Yuan handed a large bouquet of roses to Zhong Tingyu. Little Moon, flowers for you. Although she saw the flowers and gifts Li Yuan brought when they just met in the evening, her mood was completely different. Zhong Tingyu stared at Li Yuan affectionately, stretched out her hand with a slight tremor, took the rose handed over by Li Yuan, held it in her arms, bit her lip, and said shyly, thank you. Li Yuan saw Zhong Tingyu accept the flowers, and his heart was relieved again. He quickly opened the carefully wrapped gift box, took out a beautiful diamond necklace from it, and held it in his palm. Xiao Yu, this is the diamond necklace I bought at the jewelry store today. Do you like it? Zhong Tingyu looked at the necklace in Li Yuan's hand, a heart-shaped tail pendant inlaid with sparkling diamonds, and her eyes instantly became more affectionate. No girl can refuse such a beautiful thing as diamond. Especially, it is also given the meaning of love. She looked at Li Yuan with affectionate eyes and said, Senior, I like it very much. Please help me put it on. After hearing Zhong Tingyu's request, Li Yuan looked at her snow-white and slender neck, her clavicle that showed off her figure, and her smooth jade-like skin. He got a thought and took the necklace, stood up, and put his hands around Zhong Tingyu's neck. He only needed to lower his head slightly to kiss her forehead. He put the diamond necklace around Zhong Tingyu's neck and gently buckled it. With such close contact, one can even clearly hear Zhong Tingyu's heartbeat. Sensing the touch of the diamond necklace, Zhong Tingyu stared at Li Yuan with a slightly red face, and said shyly, Senior, does it look good? Li Yuan nodded, full of admiration, and answered affirmatively, Little Moon, you are really beautiful. Zhong Tingyu chuckled and snorted, Humph, I asked about the necklace, does it look good? Li Yuan smiled and said, compared with your beauty, this diamond necklace is completely dwarfed, it's just an embellishment for you. Listening to Li Yuan's praise, Zhong Tingyu felt sweet in her heart, Humph, you are just smooth talking and coaxing girls to be happy. Under the light of the bedroom, Zhong Tingyu's white skin was glowing slightly, and the bright red brought by the wine made her full of unique charm at this time. Li Yuan's heart was pounding, his heartbeat kept accelerating, and he forcibly restrained the urge to kiss her immediately, and took out a diamond ring from the gift box. Xiao Yu, there is another diamond ring. I will help you put it on too. Zhong Tingyu saw that Li Yuan had prepared a diamond necklace and a diamond ring. Suddenly, she thought to herself, isn't this a necessary procedure for confession or proposal? Thinking of this, she looked at Li Yuan with a strange expectation. Her heart was in her throat. She was looking forward to Li Yuan's next words and shyly stretched out her right hand. Li Yuan gently grasped Zhong Tingyu's slender jade hand and put the heart-shaped diamond ring on Zhong Tingyu's ring finger. Seeing Zhong Tingyu's eyes full of happiness and smile, Li Yuan could no longer hold back the impulse in his heart. He gently kissed the back of Zhong Tingyu's hand and said affectionately, "Little moon, I love you. We will never, ever, ever separate again, okay?" When Zhong Tingyu heard Li Yuan's affectionate confession, it was like turning on the switch of a spring of tears. 2 strings of crystal clear tears ran out of her eyes. "Well, senior, I love you so much too." After getting Zhong Tingyu's tearful answer, Li Yuan bent down without saying a word, lowered his head, stared at Zhong Tingyu's attractive face, and kissed her directly. Chapter 185 Mother-in-law eavesdrops, lemon essence. Zhong Tingyu. After Gu Langzhen cleaned up the living room and kitchen, she tiptoed to the living room. Seeing that Li Yuan and his daughter were not in the living room, Gu Langzhen showed a strange smile. After drinking, the 2 young people went to the bedroom to talk quietly. As long as Li Yuan was not a blockhead and was a little bit more timid, wouldn't the relationship be eased? As for Li Yuan's character, how could a playboy who could date several girlfriends at the same time be a blockhead? Gu Langzhen took out the remote control and was about to watch a TV series. Suddenly, there were slight noises in the bedroom next door. She just listened and knew whose voice it was. As a person who had experienced it, Gu Langzhen immediately understood that Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu were doing some exercise in the bedroom. Gu Langzhen's charming face was stained with a blush. She spat and muttered to herself, "These 2 kids are too impatient. Can't they wait until I fall asleep before doing that?" She looked at the time. It was just 8:10 in the evening, and it was only half an hour after dinner. Excluding the possible foreplay time, that is to say, just after dinner, after entering the bedroom, it might have been reconciled in a few minutes. Li Yuan really has some tricks. He is good at coaxing girls. Xiao Yuiyu is in his hands again. Gu Langzhen said this, but she was relieved in her heart. Since the 2 young people are already in the bedroom, doing the embarrassing movements, this means that the emotional rift between the baby daughter and Li Yuan has been repaired and reconciled. Xiao Yueliang, don't blame me for my unhealthy thoughts, distorted values, and a bit of materialism. If you don't have deep feelings for Li Yuan, and Li Yuan is not so outstanding, it's fine. I will definitely support you firmly and persuade you to break up with him and find true love. But you have already fallen deeply in love with him, and the relationship has reached that point. Li Yuan is also very, very outstanding. The most important thing is that he treats you very well. If you give up like this, it would be a pity, and you will definitely regret it for the rest of your life. In this era, it is better for you to be with Li Yuan than to let you find an ordinary person you don't love to marry and regret it alone in the future. At least, you love him in your heart. Even if you don't achieve the desired result in the end, and this love is shared by other women, but at least you have loved deeply, and you won't regret it in the future, just like your mother. This is youth, always full of emotions and impulses. When you are not yet at the age where you need reason, I don't want you to give up your feelings because of reason. Gu Langzhen said to herself in her heart, sighing faintly. As a mother, even if it is just a concubine, how can she not hope that her precious daughter can find a man who only has her in his eyes and the world, instead of going the same way as herself? But as a person who has experienced it, she knows very well that truly outstanding men often have many women around them. Because they are as bright as the sun, they will attract countless beautiful girls to stick to them. And Li Yuan is such an outstanding man. After getting information about Li Yuan from her daughter, plus some news searched on the internet in the past few days, she can be sure that Li Yuan's net worth has reached tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, and he is a veritable billionaire. And this young man who is only 18 years old, a billionaire, and talented, what will happen in the future is impossible to predict. In the mouth of her daughter, she has no doubt about Li Yuan's talent and vision, and believes that Li Yuan will definitely succeed. If her daughter can seize this opportunity, according to the generosity of Li Yuan, who has already given a sports car worth nearly 2 million, it is not surprising to give a house in the future. Just like the house we live in now, although it is only 160 square meters, it is quite good in Shanghai. My daughter can settle down in Shanghai in the future and enter the upper class. If we can have a son or daughter in the future, we will not have to worry about our whole life, and we may even become the legal wife. Gu Langzhen was thinking about it, and the voices of the two people in the bedroom next door were becoming more and more difficult to suppress. The sound insulation effect of this kind of residential housing is very poor, and no special sound insulation materials are used. Gu Langzhen's face flushed, her eyes were blurred, and her body began to feel strange. She couldn't help but intertwine her legs and gently kiss each other. She just turned 40 this year, which is the peak period of her sexual needs. The so-called 30 is like a wolf, 40 is like a tiger is not just a joke, but a true portrayal. As a concubine kept outside, Gu Langzhen is like those rich wives, and she doesn't need to do hard work or endure the wind and sun. When she has nothing to do, she watches TV series, listens to music, or meets up with a few girlfriends to play mahjong, exercise, do yoga, have spa treatments, and take care of her body. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 292. Therefore, although she is 40 years old, her appearance and skin look like she is in her early 30s. Going out with Zhong Tingyu, they are more like sisters than mother and daughter, and they are often mistaken. Gu Langzhen gradually became upset as she listened to the demonic sound. Because he drank a lot of red wine, his head gradually became less clear, and he seemed to be imagining some kind of dynamic scene in the bedroom next door. After getting drunk, she gradually lost her mind and couldn't help but put her head close to the wall of the living room. Across the wall was the master bedroom where Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu were. When Gu Langzhen leaned her head against the wall, she could hear the sounds and movements in the bedroom next door more clearly. Gulan's beautiful face was covered with blush, adding a bit of mature charm, and she spat. No wonder Little Moon thinks of Li Yuan more than food. Li Yuan's physical fitness is really good. In addition, he is young and rich, and very talented. He can completely satisfy the 3 levels of needs of most women. As a woman, Gu Langzhen understands very well what women are thinking. If there are 3 levels of needs, the first one is physiological needs. No matter what kind of family it is, if X's life is not harmonious, the relationship will not be stable and lasting, and it will inevitably cause unhappiness, lead to more disputes and quarrels, and the relationship will slowly fade away. And if X lives a harmonious life, even if there is no love at first, he will still be in love over time. Some sisters she knew were in this situation. Obviously at a wolf-like age, but that person in the family is no longer in good health, it is easy to cause mental and physical emptiness, to lose ordinary freshness, or to be taken advantage of in order to find a strong and powerful person. A young body satisfies itself. The second level of needs is material needs. There is nothing to say about this. She is also at this level. The third type is spiritual needs and spiritual resonance. This is very rare. There are very few partners who are at that level of like-minded people and meet this level of needs. Soon after, just when the love for Gulan reaches the depths and it is difficult to extricate oneself, suddenly, the cell phone ringing on the sofa suddenly rang, which startled her. Her drunkenness completely disappeared, and the charm in her eyes suddenly disappeared. He took the phone and looked at the caller. Without any delay, he quickly answered the call. A middle-aged male voice came from the other end of the phone. Lan Xin, are you still in the Magic City now? Gu Langzhen coughed lightly, letting her voice return to normal, and answered calmly. Well, I'm still in the Magic City. I want to spend a few more days with Little Moon. It's her first time traveling far away to go to school, so I'm a little worried. The caller was Zhong Tingyu's biological father, Zhong Jinghua, and the biggest supporter of her mother and daughter. Zhong Jinghua hummed, you can spend more time with Tingyu in Magic City. There is no need to rush back. Where do you live now? Gu Langzhen glanced at the living room, lied, and replied in a low voice. I am staying in a hotel next to the school. The hotel you're staying in? Then pay attention to safety and don't hang out at night, especially in nightclubs and bars. Gu Langzhen replied casually, don't worry, I won't go to those places now. Zhong Jinghua had no doubts and continued to warn. Tingyu is going to college alone in the Magic City. You need to pay extra attention to her emotions, especially in terms of relationships. Gu Langzhen's heart tightened and she asked with a smile, Jinghua, what are you talking about relationships? I didn't quite understand. Zhong Jinghua replied in a deep voice, I just want Tingyu not to have contact with unscrupulous people, especially men, and she absolutely cannot fall in love in college. Do you understand? Gu Langzhen frowned and glanced at the bedroom next door. The movement was still continuing. My daughter has already fallen in love a long time ago and gave her body to others. Now it is too late to tell her not to let her fall in love. She was afraid that Zhong Jinghua would hear strange sounds next door on the phone. Quietly, he tiptoed to the balcony of the living room. Although she didn't understand why Zhong Jinghua wouldn't let her daughter fall in love, she still pretended to be relaxed and asked tentatively. Jinghua, isn't it normal for college students to fall in love? Why not let her fall in love? Stupid, Zhong Jinghua immediately yelled at the other end of the phone. Every suitable partner she can find in college is just a crooked person. When she graduates from college, I will introduce her to many young talents. Any one of them will be better than a college student. You should do some ideological work with her, and don't provoke her rebellious psychology and do irrational things. Do you understand? Gu Langzhen frowned, not knowing why Zhong Jinghua did this, and firmly disagreed with her daughter falling in love in college. If it weren't for the fear that unclear explanations would bring more obstacles to the relationship between her daughter and Li Yuan. She wanted to tell Zhong Jinghua directly that her daughter already had a boyfriend, a very good little man, and the two were living together. But because she couldn't figure out what Zhong Jinghua was thinking, Gu Langzhen chose to hide it and tell him later when she found the right time. He replied in a perfunctory tone, yes, I understand, I will tell Little Moon. Zhong Jinghua took a breath and softened his tone, Yuan Xiaoyu, please understand that I have good intentions. I am doing it for your mother's good. Be obedient, I can arrange everything, and I will never let you two suffer. You have been in the Magic City for a few days, come back as soon as possible. I want you. Listening to Zhong Jinghua's increasingly frivolous tone, Gu Langzhen's heart was also burning. Her body was heating up quickly, like a well-cooked lobster, tempting and delicious, exuding a charming scent. When the two of them were on the phone, as long as the surrounding environment was safe, they would speak very explicitly to increase the fun between the partners. Although she felt very shy, Zhong Jinghua had this special fetish, so she could only obey. If she were in Sicheng, she might have dropped everything and rushed over quickly to enjoy this rare world of two people. Because Zhong Jinghua did not belong to her alone, there were many women around him. Hubby, I miss you too. Gu Langzhen's voice became weaker and weaker. Hubby, I want. In the bedroom. After the sudden rain stopped, enjoy the rare quiet moment. Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu, who was curled up in his arms, naked, like a stripped lamb, so weak and helpless, with sweat all over her body, as if she had just taken a bath. Her long eyelashes fluttered up and down like a fan, and her bright crescent-shaped eyes stared at Li Yuan shyly, pouting. "Humph, stinky Li Yuan, I'm tired, you help me wipe it?" "Hee hee, Xiao Yu, now it's my turn to serve you." Li Yuan's mouth corners slightly raised. He took a pack of wet wipes from the bedside table, tore it into pieces, and gradually wiped Zhong Tingyu's body. She was really tired. She had lost her appetite for the past 5 or 6 days, and her body was getting increasingly haggard. After the intense tossing, it seemed like she was about to fall apart. Li Yuan doted on Zhong Tingyu's nose. "Xiao Yu, thank you for your hard work. I will be gentler next time." Zhong Tingyu snorted and said proudly, "Stinky Senior, do you still want a next time? I haven't forgiven you yet." Li Yuan smiled, "Just now, didn't you forgive me at that time? Now you don't keep your word." Zhong Tingyu's face turned red in an instant, and she glared at Li Yuan fiercely. Then, she lay on Li Yuan's arm and bit it hard, leaving a tooth mark. "Humph, stinky Li Yuan, you still said, in that situation, how can people answer, you don't know how to be gentle and considerate, so annoying." "Little moon, bite hard, this is what I deserve," Li Yuan said, pretending to be in pain and grinning, managing his expression. Zhong Tingyu bit it, and seeing Li Yuan's exaggerated expression, she thought it hurt, so she let go of her mouth and asked with concern, "Does it hurt?" Li Yuan grinned and said, "It doesn't hurt, little moon, you bite any part of my body, I won't feel pain." "Stinky Li Yuan, I should bite you to death, who made you so fickle?" Li Yuan hugged Zhong Tingyu into his arms, kissed her forehead, and started to laugh. "Little moon, just forgive me." "Hee hee, if you don't forgive me, I will play poker with you tonight." When Zhong Tingyu heard that Li Yuan was going to continue playing poker, her body trembled suddenly, and she rolled her eyes at Li Yuan in fear. She had already experienced how good Li Yuan's card skills were. If it was before, she could barely fight back. But today, she had hardly eaten recently, her body was not in good condition, and she had no power to fight back. Even though her hatred for Li Yuan had gradually dissipated in her heart, she thought about what Li Yuan had done. She still stared at Li Yuan with a sour tone and snorted, "If you want me to forgive you, you must agree to one condition of mine." Li Yuan quickly agreed, "Xiao Yu, you say, don't say one, even if it's 10, I will agree to you." Zhong Tingyu rolled her eyes at Li Yuan and said faintly, "Senior, I don't want to have other sisters anymore." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 293. Li Yuan was startled, opened his mouth, and just as he was about to explain, he heard Zhong Tingyu continue. "This time, I was planning to leave you completely, and even wanted to die. It was my mother who stayed with me every day that made me survive. She can only rely on me in the future. It's unreliable to rely on my philandering and cruel father. Li Yuan, I am also very selfish. I want to occupy all of you. I don't want to share your love with others, just like my mother. She has to be sneaky when she wants to see my father. Do you know how unbelievable it is for me to know that my mother is just my biological father's mistress when I grow up and know that my mother is just my biological father's mistress? I feel inferior in my heart. I don't understand, my mother is so beautiful, why would she be willing to be someone else's mistress and can't even get a marriage certificate? I don't have a father in my household registration." Zhong Tingyu couldn't help but shed tears as she spoke. It is said that women are made of water. Li Yuan did not believe it before, but after experiencing the reactions of Bai Wuxi, Zhong Tingyu and other girlfriends, he believed it a little. Women may really be made of water. Little Moon, Li Yuan called softly and patted her shoulder gently. Zhong Tingyu sobbed and continued to tell with tears, Li Yuan, I have been very inferior since I was a child because of my family, so my appearance is particularly cold to cover up my inner weakness. After knowing my fate, I studied hard, just to escape the shackles of fate. Before I came to college, my father talked to me. He told me in a very strong tone that college would never allow me to fall in love. I know what he was thinking. If I hadn't met you, I might not have fallen in love. It was you who gave me the courage. Li Yuan listened quietly to Zhong Tingyu's crying. Some of these words she had mentioned to him, and some were said for the first time. Li Yuan, I hate you, but I love you very much and I can't bear to leave you. Losing you is like losing the whole world, and the whole world has no color. I know that I can only occupy a small part in your heart, not your only one, and I don't expect that your world only has me. But, Li Yuan, I really don't want to be disappointed again, can you promise me? Li Yuan naturally understood what Zhong Ting meant. She could admit that she had several girlfriends now, but she couldn't stand more. Once love is constantly divided, it is not worthy of being called love. It can only be called desire for objects. Human beings are such complex animals, they want both feelings and material things. Talk about material things when you have no money, and talk about feelings when you have money. Even he himself hopes that his girlfriend really likes him as a person, not his money. Li Yuan reached out and rubbed her head, and nodded seriously. Little Moon, I promise you. Hearing Li Yuan's promise, Zhong Tingyu's eyes were more smiling, and the look she gave Li Yuan was softer. Senior, I don't want to publicly restore our relationship for the time being. Li Yuan was stunned and asked subconsciously, why? Zhong Tingyu rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, snorted, and said sourly, why do you say that? Li Yuan came back to his senses and thought of the reason in his heart. Xiao Yu, it's okay, I will tell her and won't let you suffer. Zhong Tingyu bit her lip, feeling slightly sour in her heart. Bai Wuxi and Li Yuan were high school classmates and childhood sweethearts, and all the roommates knew about it. She also said in the dormitory that she chose to quit in front of Bai Wuxi and other roommates. If she reconciled with Li Yuan again, she could already imagine the strange looks of other roommates and classmates. If Bai Wuxi questioned her, how would she answer? She was already more relieved that Li Yuan was willing to answer her like this. She is a proud girl, but she hasn't figured out how to face this relationship correctly. Zhong Tingyu stared at Li Yuan, pursed her lips, and said softly, Li Yuan, wait a little longer, Wuxi is also pitiful, I don't want to have friction with her in the dormitory, I don't like that. Li Yuan wanted to say that in his heart, you are more important than Bai Wuxi. The words came to his lips, but he swallowed them back. Sometimes, actions are better than all sweet words. Besides, with Zhong Tingyu's intelligence, she may not believe it. Li Yuan suddenly had an idea and thought of a way. Xiao Yu, how about you change a dormitory? Anyway, you are not in the same class. Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi, although they are in the same financial college, they are not in the same major. One is in finance and the other is in business administration. It is also a coincidence that they can be assigned to the same dormitory. Zhong Tingyu stared at Li Yuan with a faint gaze, which made him a little embarrassed. Li Yuan touched his nose and said awkwardly, well, how about I ask her to change her dormitory? She will definitely agree. Zhong Tingyu shook her head, let's talk about it later. Shanshan and Tingro are both good. Seeing that Zhong Tingyu did not explicitly refuse, Li Yuan had made up his mind to find a way to change her dormitory. In college, it is very simple to change dormitories. Just find the instructor, contact those students, and exchange them. At most, it is a matter of spending some money to buy them some gifts. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. Zhong Tingyu yawned, looked at Li Yuan, and asked, "Senior, are you leaving tonight?" Li Yuan asked in confusion, "Where else am I going?" Zhong Tingyu snorted, "Go and accompany your other girlfriends. I dare not occupy you alone." Li Yuan was speechless. The sour words were about to overflow the sky. Tonight, Zhong Tingyu lost her former high-cold goddess style and had a tendency to become a lemon essence. Li Yuan held her in his arms. "Little moon, I won't leave tonight. I will stay with you." Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips and smiled softly, holding Li Yuan's arm. "Well, then I will hold you to sleep." Recommended a friend's fun article. Chapter 186. Bai Wuxi's parents came to the door. "I want to give birth to a baby for you." In a small town in northern Anhui, autumn has arrived, and there is a hint of chill in the air. In the staff quarters of the 4th Middle School, in front of a unit building somewhere, Bai Tiankai parked the black Mercedes-Benz, closed the door confidently, and was refreshed. There was no sense of vicissitudes before. A person cannot have a Mercedes and low self-esteem at the same time. "Hey, Lao Bai, are you driving a Mercedes-Benz for a ride again?" Lao Bai's Mercedes-Benz is really cool, with a spacious space and very comfortable to sit in. How can it be uncomfortable? This is a gift from my son-in-law. If my son-in-law can give me one, I will be very happy every day. Downstairs in the unit, several middle-aged men and women who were playing mahjong saw Bai Tiankai getting off the Mercedes-Benz and laughed and joked. Bai Tiankai walked over with a smile on his face, took out a pack of soft zonghua from his pocket and handed it to several neighbors. "Come on, have a huazi." Tisk tisk, Lao Bai is really on the rise, he's even smoking soft zonghua. I don't even want to smoke during the Chinese New Year. Driving a Mercedes, smoking huazi, drinking Maotai, these are the lifelong dreams of us men. Lao Bai has them all after a trip to Shanghai. It's really good to have a good baby instead of a good job. A middle-aged man smoked a cigarette and joked, "Lao Zhou, you're only in your early 40s, right? Let your sister-in-law give you a beautiful daughter, maybe you can find a rich boyfriend like Lao Bai's daughter." "Okay, my daughter doesn't look like Lao Bai." "Alas, Lao Bai, come to think of it, your daughter and my stinky boy are about the same age. I was thinking of letting them get to know each other." Bai Tiankai smiled without saying anything, thinking to himself, "Is your stinky boy worthy of my daughter? He doesn't even look in the mirror." As a father, he knows better than anyone how beautiful his precious daughter is. She has top grades and attends a 985 university. Lao Zhou's child is about the same height as his precious daughter at most, and looks ordinary. He attends an ordinary second-tier university. He is not from the same world at all. The key is that his family conditions are also ordinary. He is completely crushed by his daughter's current boyfriend. Lao Zhou stared at Bai Tiankai. "Lao Bai, wait until the new year, bring your precious son-in-law back to us to see who he is. We will also check him for you." Bai Tiankai laughed and said, "Let's talk about it after the new year. He is busy at work and has to go to school. My husband is still waiting for me at home. You guys play, I'll go upstairs first." After Bai Tiankai went upstairs, several people looked at the black Mercedes-Benz parked next to them with envious expressions. Lao Bai really gave birth to a good daughter. She has ascended to heaven in one step. Now she walks with the wind. That's right. I checked. Lao Bai's Mercedes-Benz is worth 500,000 or 600,000 yuan. One car is equivalent to our lifetime work. Who let his daughter be beautiful and smart? She went to a prestigious university and found a rich boyfriend. She should settle down in Shanghai and become a big city dweller in the future. Comparing people is annoying. This huazi is so strong. In a few days, I will go to Lao Bai's house to taste his mutai. The taste of the wine is great, the best in the world. Bai Tiankai just returned home and heard Yang Jinyu asking. Lao Bai, what did Lao He say? There is a Dali village Lizhuang in Bangsu town of our county, right? Yes, it should be. Bai Tiankai nodded. Yang Jinyu showed a happy look on her face and suggested, we get off work early today, let's go there early. Bai Tiankai frowned and looked a little hesitant. Jinyu, do we really want to go? Will it be inappropriate? If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 294. Yang Jinyu nodded with a smile on her face and answered affirmatively, what's inappropriate? We just went over to take a look, understand the situation in advance, inquire about the reputation, and also serve as an outpost for my daughter. Bai Tiankai's slightly weathered face was full of reluctance, and his brows were furrowed into a Sichuan shape. Jinyu, Wei 11 and Li Yuan haven't even figured out their horoscopes yet. Let's go find out about their families. If anyone finds out, we won't be laughed at in secret. A joke? Who would laugh at you? Aren't they just praising you for finding a good son-in-law? Aren't you very proud and prosperous these days? Driving a Ben, drinking Maotai and smoking Zonghua every day. People who don't know it think you are getting rich. Yang Jing curled his lips and said disapprovingly. Bai Tiankai smiled coquettishly and didn't answer. What man doesn't want to lose face? My daughter's boyfriend spent a lot of time in Shanghai, buying a car worth hundreds of thousands, a gold watch worth more than 100, and before leaving, he bought a trunk of Maotai and Zonghua. Let him be completely satisfied with Li Yuan, his future son-in-law. 4 days ago, the couple drove a brand new Mercedes-Benz from Shanghai to the small town in northern Anhui. As expected, they immediately became famous among colleagues, relatives, and friends. When the couple came back, they planned to find an excuse, such as winning a lottery jackpot, as an excuse. But after thinking for a long time along the way, worrying that if Li Yuan knew about it in the future, it would affect their family's senses, he finally decided to tell the truth. Therefore, word spread about Bai Wuxi's mysterious rich boyfriend, and the couple praised Li Yuan so much that their colleagues and friends were envious. After all, being able to buy a luxury car worth 1 or 2 million for his girlfriend and father-in-law during their relationship is completely beyond their imagination. That's why the scene of just coming back happened. However, the couple were not fools and did not introduce much about Li Yuan's situation. Colleagues and friends only think that my daughter is looking for a rich second generation from big cities such as Shanghai. As parents, and with only a precious daughter like Bai Wuxi, the couple thought deeply and wanted to inquire about the situation of Li Yuan's family, especially the personality and temperament of Li Yuan's parents, and whether they could get along well. After asking about it, I actually got it. Seeing Yang Jinyu's insistence, Tian Tiankai frowned and said, okay, let's agree first that we won't meet Li Yuan's parents after we go there. We just want to inquire about his personality. Yang Jinyu narrowed his eyes, well, let's go now. We can still return to the city before dark. Bangsu town is located in the northeast of the county, about 30 miles away, and it only takes 20 minutes to drive there. The couple first drove to the ZZF gate in the market town. After a while, a middle-aged man with oily hair hurriedly came out to greet him. Lao Bai, why are you free today and why do you come to our banquet? As he spoke, he looked at the black Mercedes-Benz driven by Bai Tiankai with an envious expression. I've long heard that you mentioned Ben, my old classmate. Sure enough, it's still a license from Shanghai Magic City. That's awesome. Bai Tiankai laughed, he was tired of hearing such words these days. Lao He, you are the deputy ZZ of Bangsu town. You must be familiar with Dali village. Lao He was stunned at first, and then said cheerfully, Xiao Lizhuang in Dali village? Of course I'm familiar with it. That's the village I hired. Most of the people in this village are working in other places. What's wrong with you? Well, it's a little trivial. Bai Tiankai's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, Old he, please take us there. No problem, I have nothing to do in the afternoon anyway. I will stay with you, an old classmate. No wonder, you just asked me on the phone. It turns out something is really going on. Xiali village in Dali village is located next to the provincial highway. It took the three of them just a few minutes to drive to their destination. Old Bai, this is Xiali village in Dali village. The person you are looking for should be on the roadside here. This is a provincial road that was just built a few years ago, and the transportation is very convenient. Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu were both a little nervous. The three of them were just about to get off the car when they saw a four-story, Western-style villa with an area of 400 to 500 square meters on the north side of the provincial road, which was under intensive construction. Bai Tiankai asked curiously, Old he, there are quite a lot of rich people in Dali village. Doesn't it cost a lot to build a big villa like this? Lao he followed Bai Tiankai's gaze and looked at the large villa that was being built. He chuckled, the family you mentioned is indeed very rich. I heard that it would cost at least 200 to build this villa and add decorations more than 10,000, his name has already been registered in our unit. Oh? What do you mean, is it a local snake? Bai Tiankai asked curiously. Lao he shook his head with a smile and explained, no, this family is also a legend. It is said that the son of this family made a lot of money outside, and then took millions to build such a big villa in his hometown. This is nothing, the most important thing is, do you know? I heard that this person who made a fortune outside is just a college student who just entered college this year. Do you think it is novel or not? When Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu heard this, they looked at each other and an idea suddenly came to their minds. Under the sun, could there be two such similar things? Lao he continued to smile and said, that college student seems to be attending college in Shanghai. Our leaders have listed him as a key investment target. I am in charge of investment promotion and industrial construction, and I am planning to wait for this college student to come back. Let's visit in person. Let's see if we can get him to come back and invest some money to start a business in his hometown to create employment and promote the development of his hometown. You also know that the economy is king now and everything must give way to economic development. The rest is not important. I've been here a few times before, but unfortunately the college student is not at home. Their parents are out and out farmers, and they can't make the decision. Listening to this legendary figure, he is in the Magic City, he just went to college this year, and he lives in the same village, and the same surname as Li Yuan. Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu glanced at each other and were convinced that the owner of the large villa being built must be Li Yuan. All conditions are completely consistent. After Lao he talked, his mouth was dry and he asked curiously, Old Bai, you haven't told me yet, what are you doing in Dali village? During the day, Chi laughed and changed the topic without directly explaining his purpose. Old he, I'm curious about this family's situation. You said you came to visit a few times. Can you tell me about it? Lao he looked at his old classmate in confusion, always feeling that Bai Tiankai was a little weird. Old Bai, what are you asking about? Haha, I'm just curious. Bai Tiankai wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He introduced with a smile, speaking of which, this family was very ordinary before, similar to most rural people. The college students' parents used to work in the Northeast all year round, doing small business, and they were also very simple and polite. He is not very knowledgeable, he is an honest rural citizen. I visited him several times and he was always very polite. Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai were both listening to Lao He's introduction attentively. Old Bai, brothers and sisters, what are your plans for coming to Dali village? Lao He asked doubtfully. Yang Jinyu said, Lao He, we just want to know about a person's situation. As the person in charge of FZZ within the system, He had already matured and had a very flexible mind. Suddenly, an idea flashed through him, and he thought of a possibility. He widened his eyes and asked in surprise, "Lao Bai, my brothers and sisters, you two are here just to see this family, right? I remember that your daughter was admitted to university this year, and she seems to have gone to university in Shanghai. The college student here seems to have just gone to Shanghai to attend university this year. What a coincidence. In the past 2 days, several classmates have said that your daughter found a rich boyfriend and bought you a Mercedes-Benz. Damn, this is the place, right? Old Bai, tell me quickly, what's going on?" Bai Tiankai panicked and quickly explained, "Old He, don't make random guesses." The more He talked, the more he felt that this was the real situation. He smiled and stared at Bai Tiankai and his wife, ready to blow him up. "Old Bai, brothers and sisters, I know why you are here. You want to meet your future parents-in-law for your daughter, right?" After being told what they meant, Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu both looked a little awkward, and their expressions kept changing. When He saw the appearance of the two of them, how could he not understand that he had really guessed it right? He suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, "Go on, I guessed it right. Lao Bai, brothers and sisters, you are hiding it's quite deep." Tian Qijian couldn't hide it, so he could only speak hesitantly. "Lao He, just know it yourself. Don't spread the word. The two children haven't been settled yet." He had a look of understanding, his eyes were full of surprise, and he nodded quickly. With this relationship, during the Chinese New Year, Bai Tiankai might be able to help Bangsu Town get some investment. "Old Bai, I understand what you mean. Don't worry. How strict is my mouth? How can you not know? You want to meet his parents? Come on, I'll take you there now." Bai Tiankai nodded, thought for a while, and reminded, "There is no need to go to his house, let's just understand the situation." He nodded with a smile, "Well, I come here often, and we are familiar with each other. Let's first find the village chief of Dali village to learn more about the situation." Tian Tiankai and Yang Jinyu looked at each other and nodded. The distant magical city, Jingxia Villa community. Li Yuan didn't know what was happening in his hometown. Bai Wuxi's parents were worried about their daughter and went to his hometown to inquire about his parents. Looking at Zhong Tingyu who had fallen asleep next to him, Li Yuan showed a smile on his lips, and finally got rid of Little Moon for the time being. In this house, Li Yuan did not buy a computer, so he could not code. He was bored and played with his mobile phone, logged onto QQ, and looked at the messages one after another. At 19:32 in the evening, Bai Wuxi, "Brother, are you free tonight? Let's hang out in school together. I miss you." At 20:15 in the evening, Bai Wuxi, "What are you busy with? Why didn't you reply to the message?" At 20:32 in the evening, Bai Wuxi, "Brother, are you writing a book? Today, none of my roommates are here. I am alone in the dormitory. I am SHYJPG." Li Yuan looked at the messages sent by Bai Wuxi and felt a sense of déjà vu. Isn't this the similar message he often sent to Bai Wuxi in his previous life, but now, the two of them have changed their positions. Li Yuan sent a smiley face back, "I was busy just now, didn't check my phone, wasn't in school, will come back to see you tomorrow." Li Yuan had just sent the message when Bai Wuxi replied, "Okay, it's okay, I'll wait for you tomorrow, I just bought some nice clothes, I'll wear them for you tomorrow." If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 295. Li Yuan's eyes lit up, could Bai Wuxi still wear QQ underwear? A little distracted, his body trembling, "Really? Then I'm going to look forward to it. Bai Wuxi, it will definitely surprise my brother." The scene at Yuanyangpo that night came to Li Yuan's mind. After Baiwaxi's Pua, she seemed to be more clingy and sensible. Some new card skills that were not suitable for Xiao's Haijin and Zhong Tingyu to study could be developed by Baiwaxi. After experiencing Yuanyangpo once, it seems that there are still many places in Daxia University that can be further developed. Tisk tisk, Xiaobai also has many advantages. Li Yuan muttered in his heart and continued to scroll through the messages. Suddenly he saw a message sent to him by an unexpected person. 18:23 p.m, little rascal, are you free tonight? Treat your sister to a big dinner. Seeing this number, Li Yuan immediately thought of who it was. In the afternoon, he had the third kind of contact with the other party at the college student entrepreneurship office. Li Yuan was a little confused. Didn't she make a date tonight? Did she lie to that guy? The beautiful lady made an appointment, but Li Yuan didn't mind going to the meeting alone to try out the skills of the beautiful instructor. Unfortunately, he glanced at Zhong Tingyu lying next to him and already promised her to stay here, so he could only look at his teacher and sigh. Li Yuan replied, "Teacher Qi, I have to spend time with my girlfriend tonight, let's try another day." After waiting for a while, Qi Siyu didn't reply, and Li Yuan didn't care and continued to reply to messages one after another. There are messages from all kinds of people, including college classmates, high school classmates, company employees, readers, fans, etc., and the contents are also different. Li Yuan murmured in his heart, sure enough, when you are poor in the busy city, no one cares about you, but when you are rich in the mountains, you have distant relatives. Not being able to reply to messages every day is such a happy worry. As soon as Li Yuan finished replying to the message, he saw the phone ringing again. Before Li Yuan could speak, a surprised voice came over the phone. "Brother Yuan, you are really amazing. I want to give birth to a monkey for you. The stock you mentioned has indeed risen sharply." "Go away, do you have that function?" Li Yuan scolded with a smile. "How much has it increased today?" Su Ji replied in surprise, "It has increased by 15% today, with a net profit of 6,000 yuan. Li Yuan asked with some confusion, "Daji, didn't you say you only have 10,000 yuan of private money? How can you earn so much?" Su Ji explained with some embarrassment, "Brother Yuan, what the heck, I found various reasons, asked my family for some money, and borrowed some money from friends, I scraped together some more, and bought this stock." Li Yuan was slightly shocked. Su Ji was brave enough. He just said a word and he got the better of him. "Daji, how did you convince your parents? Also, you are so courageous that you are not afraid of compensation." Su Ji said with some difficulty, "It's too shameful, so I won't tell you. As for compensating money, can I still not believe you, Brother Yuan? Even if you do lose money, at worst, I will hold your lap and cry from now on. I don't believe that you can die without saving anything." Li Yuan was speechless, and he thought highly of Su Ji. This kind of courage was not something ordinary college students could have. He couldn't help but think that in his previous life, he could no longer survive in Magic City, but Su Ji still continued to stay in Magic City, and even got a suite at the peak of housing prices in Magic City. However, Li Yuan was very curious, what reason would Su Ji give to his parents to give him 10,000 or 20,000 at once? Shameful. Could it be? Li Yuan's eyes lit up, and he thought of something that most men would do. "By the way, Brother Yuan, I also told Xiao's Hawaii about this." After hearing this, he also invested 10,000 yuan in it. "You won't be angry, right?" Su Ji reminded carefully. Li Yuan frowned, relaxed, and reminded again, "Well, Daji, next time something like this happens, tell me in advance. The risks in the stock market are very high. If you don't make it, you may lose everything. You must not just get addicted and make a little money. If it weren't for the lifelong friendship between several people, Li Yuan would really not be willing to take the risk and take Su Ji to invest in the stock market. Tens of thousands of yuan is nothing to him now, but to Su Ji, Wang Shui, and others who have just entered college, it is already an astronomical figure, which is several years of college living expenses. Yeah, brother Yuan, I understand, don't worry, I will definitely listen to you. I will buy whatever you ask me to buy, and I will throw it away whenever you ask me. Su Ji had a "you are the only one" tone. Although his grades were not very good, he was not stupid and was 100% convinced of Li Yuan's ability. If you don't seize such a rare opportunity to make a fortune, you might as well die in a headlong collision. By the way, brother Yuan, I have persuaded my parents to put together 400,000 yuan to give me the down payment for a 3-bedroom apartment in Shanghai. Do you have any recommendations for a good location? Li Yuan was startled and became even more curious about how Su Ji persuaded his parents. Although the conditions of Su Ji's family are not bad, it took a lot of courage to spend 400,000 to buy a house in 2008. Most people would not have this courage. Li Yuan thought for a while and made a suggestion: if you buy a house in Shanghai, other things are not important, but it must be a house in a school district. There is a lot of room for appreciation in the future, whether you use it yourself or sell it. Su Ji now believed in Li Yuan without a doubt, and nodded quickly. Okay, brother Yuan, I'll listen to you. My parents will come to Shanghai in the next 2 days, shall we have dinner together? They are also very curious about you, a legendary figure. Li Yuan shook his head speechlessly. Let's talk about it later. I'm a little busy recently, and I'm exhausted every day. Su Ji smiled. He, brother Yuan, I understand, I have to coax a few sisters-in-law. Chapter 187 Shocking news, Xiao Yuer is going abroad. Su Ji naturally knew Li Yuan's scumbag nature very well, and he didn't hide it when he made a joke. Brother Yuan, tell me, how can you appease several girlfriends? I can't even handle one. Su Ji spoke enviously. As a man, there is no one who doesn't envy Li Yuan for being surrounded by women. Thinking of his relationship with Wang Yuchen, Su Ji couldn't help but feel discouraged and indifferent. Recently, Yuchen has become increasingly cold to me. I don't understand what went wrong between us. I'm obviously very good to her, caring about her every day, bringing her breakfast, buying snacks, sending her milk tea, and even taking care of her roommates. But the more this happens, I've given everything I can, but I feel that the relationship is getting weaker and weaker, and I haven't received the due return at all. Brother Yuan, can you teach me? Li Yuan was speechless when he heard this. What kind of dog-licking literature is this? It's exactly the same as his previous life. This approach is not to say that it is absolutely wrong, but it depends on the person. With Wang Yuchen's somewhat green tea and materialistic personality, Su Ji's doing this will most likely only have a counterproductive effect, and he will be completely controlled by Wang Yuchen. Daji, I'm going to tell you the truth, you may not want to listen. Su Ji nodded quickly. Yes, brother Yuan, I will listen to whatever you say. Li Yuan smiled, sorted out his thoughts, and continued to teach his own view of love. Daji, you are just like me before, you flatter her too much, you praise her too much, which makes her have unrealistic fantasies, and even think you are not worthy of her, so her attitude towards you changes, and she thinks that your kindness to her is justified. In other words, you are firmly controlled by her, and she has you in her arms. After hearing this, Su Ji fell into silence. Li Yuan had said something similar to him before, and he didn't take it seriously at the time. But his recent experience made him realize that what Li Yuan said seemed to make some sense. Su Ji took a deep breath and asked, Brother Yuan, what do you think I should do now? I'll listen to you. Li Yuan laughed. Don't say that. I can only give you a suggestion. Think about it yourself. I think you can learn some tricks, such as playing hard to get, being hot and cold, and making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. The best way is to change a target, make her feel a sense of crisis, and then do appropriate pua, so that she will be more devoted. I'm not a love expert, I'm just saying my opinion. You can also learn some love experience from the internet. Remember to reflect your value, and this value is difficult to replace. There is another sentence, you can listen to it. In a relationship, whoever is serious first will lose. Suji listened carefully. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he nodded in agreement with a thoughtful look in his heart. Brother Yuan, I understand what you mean. I will change. Li Yuan smiled, okay, let's just say this. We'll talk again when we have time. Well, Brother Yuan, bye. You should also take it easy, work less, and don't get sick from working too hard, Suji joked with a sly smile. Li Yuan was stunned at first, but then he understood and laughed and scolded, get lost, I'm in good health. I won't talk to you anymore. A spring night is worth 1,000 gold. This time, I've wasted hundreds of gold. Alas, there's nothing you can do if you're too good. You have to work hard day and night every day. Suji was shown off and said enviously, Brother Yuan, I really envy you. Haha, don't worry, you'll enjoy this feeling in the future. Take good care of your kidneys first and use less fifth girl. Li Yuan smiled. If Suji could really listen to him all the time and follow him wholeheartedly, not to mention one girlfriend, even 100 would not be a problem. After hanging up the phone with Suji, Li Yuan came to the bedside, looked at Zhong Tingyu who was still sleeping sweetly, kissed her on the forehead, and continued to play with his mobile phone. The mobile phones of this era are really not fun, far inferior to the later smartphones. Fruit Model 1, at this time, seems to have been listed in the United States. When it is listed in China, it will definitely cause a crazy buying craze and become an epoch-making mobile phone, causing the stock of fruit to soar. After selling the stocks of Burgundy, I can buy some stocks of fruit companies. Li Yuan continued to think about his investment plan in his mind. He knew that these stocks would definitely rise sharply, and he had a lot of extra spare money in his hands. It would be a waste if he didn't invest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 296. He would never think that he has too much money. Luxury houses, luxury cars, yachts, private jets, private estates, and so on. Compared with those real rich people, he is still in the stage of having nothing. With the stock assets, his net worth is only over 100 million. Li Yuan was thinking about it and couldn't help but click on the QQ group. In order to prevent being disturbed, he set all the QQ groups to message do not disturb mode. Recently, he was too lazy to check various QQ groups, such as book friends fan groups, university and high school class groups, etc. Without thinking, you can also know how they will talk about him in these groups. Li Yuan just glanced casually, and it was almost the same as what he guessed. Suddenly, a message from the leader group startled him and made him a little flustered. Warm sun after the storm at I love to eat coriander, coriander, I heard that you are going abroad. Is it true? Book shortage forced to write a book, what? Xiang Ke is going abroad, is this true? Isn't she studying in Shanghai? Tianshan swordsman, brothers, is it true that Xiahua and Xiang Ke haven't reconciled yet? They broke up completely, and Xiang Ke decided to go abroad. Menyi Muj, it's probably true. Alas, Xiahua is also very fickle. I still can't believe that he has 4 girlfriends at the same time. I turned from a fan to a hater. If I didn't want to know the follow-up story of Battle Starry Sky, I would have sent a knife to Xiaohua. Stephen Fenfen, alas, there is nothing I can do about it. Xiaohua is really excellent. I play the songs he wrote every day. It attracts girls and is also very normal. It just feels a bit pity. Menu Muj, it's a pity, but there is no way. No girl is willing to share her boyfriend with other girls, right? This is not ancient times, where there can be 3 wives and 4 concubines, 3 palaces and 6 courtyards and 72 concubines. The male god's little follower, I will answer weakly, I am willing. If Xiaohua likes me, I don't mind sharing with other girls. The third young master's sword, ahem, why are you off topic again? Zionke is going abroad. I really want to know now. Does Xiaohua know? Will Li Yuan know? Of course he doesn't know. After the new book signing event that day, he never saw Zhang Ziyu again, nor did he contact her. The two people suddenly became the most familiar strangers. Even though they were only separated by more than 10 kilometers, it was as if they were separated by the ends of the earth and it was difficult to see each other. In Li Yuan's mind, the scenes of being with Zhang Ziyu emerged. He was indeed very moved by her, but unfortunately, he was essentially a scumbag and didn't dare to get too close. Suddenly, he heard the news that Zhang Ziyu was going abroad. A feeling of reluctance instantly filled his heart, making him feel very depressed, as if he was about to suffocate. If she really went abroad, it meant that the two of them would no longer be possible. Li Yuan pressed the keyboard of his mobile phone and swiped to Zhang Ziyu's contact information. Looking at this familiar mobile phone number, he wanted to say something, but he didn't know how to start. How to explain to Zhang Ziyu? For by Wuxi, he didn't feel guilty. He just stayed by her side and treated her well. She could accept this reality. For Xia's Haijin, he would definitely not let go and give this poor and strong girl a home. For Zhong Tingyu, he also had a way. He had a reason in his heart, which could comfort himself and bring her happiness. At present, the three of them were temporarily settled. Only, for Zhang Ziyu, Li Yuan didn't know how to keep her, and what name and excuse to keep her. She has a happy family, relatives who love her, her own friends, and many suitors, among whom there are many who are better than him. No one will bully her, everyone will revolve around her, she is a happy little princess. What can I bring to her? After all, I just wrote a fan fiction and copied a few songs. This may be very powerful for girls from ordinary families. But for girls from families like Zhang Ziyu, all of this is at their fingertips, and it doesn't take any effort at all. It is not impossible to invite superstars such as Jejo, Jackie Chung, Edward Lau and she to personally guide her. Li Yuan sighed, opened QQ, and looked at the messages that Zhang Ziyu, this lively and lovely elf girl, had sent to him since they added QQ friends on July 3rd. Every day, there are no less than 30 messages, and there are already thousands of messages in total, sharing her thoughts, her life, her hobbies, and the scenery she has seen. This is also everything she has experienced in the past 3 months. Li Yuan felt a little sad. He couldn't help but think about seeing Xiao Yuer's voice and appearance. Unfortunately, there is not even a photo of the two of us in my phone. Just like this, I am qualified to say that I love her. Li Yuan, where do you get the qualifications? Li Yuan laughed at himself and thought about it from another perspective. If he were Zhang Ziyu, he would be more ruthless. Li Yuan looked at Zhang Ziyu's QQ avatar. In the past, it was always online. The girl who often harassed him has now become a grey avatar. Looking at this grey avatar, Li Yuan felt mixed emotions and didn't dare to click it. She probably deleted and blocked me. After hesitating for a long time, Li Yuan finally plucked up the courage, clicked on Xiao Yuer's profile picture, and then clicked on her QQ space. In the complicated mood of worry and expectation, Zhang Ziu's space was opened. Li Yuan was stunned, and then his whole body was filled with joy. I wasn't blocked by Xiao Yuer, Li Yuan muttered to himself, his heart filled with excitement. It was as if the darkness that had just fallen was suddenly torn apart, revealing a ray of light. This is not the first time that he has visited Xiao Yuer's QQ space. When the two of them first met and before going to college, he visited frequently and even left messages. However, later on, after going to college, he met Zhong Tingyu, Xiao's Haijin, and took down by Wuxi, and there was no room for him to step on Zhang Ziu again. Li Yuan looked at Zhang Ziu's space and said that the most recent one was on October 7, the day of the book signing. Because I happened to meet you, I am so lucky. Meeting you is the happiest thing in my life. Thank you for having you, brother Xiahua. By now. Li Yuan looked at Zhang Ziu's words and his body trembled suddenly. It seemed that he could see how sad and desperate Xiao Er was at that time. He looked at the comments below the article again, and there were only a few scattered ones, all of which seemed to be Xiao Yuer's friends. Xiao Yuer, touch your head, you still have us, don't cry. Forget him, we sisters will spend time with you to welcome a new life. I just happened to meet you, but I had to leave. I feel sorry for you, give me a hug, we will always be by your side. Unexpectedly, no one scolded him in the comments below. After just a brief thought, Li Yuan guessed the reason. With what he did, it was impossible that no one would scold him. There is only one possibility. Except for these few comments, all others have been deleted by Zhang Ziu. Li Yuan's eyes were changing, and the complicated and regretful feeling in his heart was so strong that it covered his whole body, making his mood even more depressed. Then, he clicked on a photo album called Me and Him. It has been set up to answer questions, and it can only be opened if the answer is correct. Li Yuan looked at the question. Zhang Ziu said, "Who is he?" With a thought in my heart, I directly entered the 4 words "life is like a summer flower," and it was prompted that the answer was wrong. Isn't it me? It's impossible. Li Yuan was slightly startled and entered the words brother Xiahua again. This word is Xiao Yuer's exclusive name for himself. This time, as expected, the answer is indeed right. The QQ space photo album has been opened. There are hundreds of photos in this photo album, and Li Yuan browses them one by one. As he watched, his body trembled again, and he could hardly hold the phone steady. At some point, a glistening teardrop suddenly appeared in the corner of his eye. Because he is in every photo in this album. There are photos of him alone, and there are also intimate photos of the two of them together, just like a pair of real lovers. Moreover, the time is stamped under each photo. Li Yuan didn't even know where Zhang Ziu secretly took many of the photos. As for Zhang Ziu's entire QQ space photo album, there is nothing else except this one dedicated to the two of them. Li Yuan murmured to himself, with tears in his eyes, it turns out that she only has me in her eyes all over the world. But I lost her. Magic City, Jiada. In the girls' dormitory, Xieping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and Li Qingqing all looked reluctant to persuade. Xieping held Zhang Ziu's little hand, looked at the haggard face, and her once clear and flawless eyes had become dim, and persuaded her with great distress. Jiayu, do you really plan to study abroad? You are alone in a foreign country and you are not familiar with the place. It would be great to stay. Our sisters can accompany you. Zhang Ruoxiu also felt uncomfortable and wanted to scold Li Yuan again, but she was afraid that Zhang Ziu would be angry. These days, whenever someone speaks ill of Li Yuan in front of Zhang Ziu, she will be angry. Jiayu, if you really go abroad, you will never see us again. We are reluctant to leave you. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 297. When Li Qingqing saw Zhang Ziu, who had been silent all this time, she also held her hand, mustered up the courage to ask boldly. Jiayu, are you really willing to give up on him? Hearing this, Zhang Xiao's body trembled suddenly and quickly regained his composure. Li Qingqing continued, I don't know what others think, and I don't know what you think, Xiao, but I think that even if we really break up, we have to give each other an explanation. Even if I say goodbye in person, I won't regret it in the future. Xie Ping quickly agreed, yes, what Qingqing said makes sense, Xiao, don't make a decision so quickly. Give Li Yuan a chance to say goodbye, and give yourself a chance to say goodbye. Zhang Ruoxiu and Li Qingqing looked at each other and started to persuade each other. The four people in their dormitory all have a good relationship, and they are very fond of Zhang Xiao, a generous, kind, lively and cute little rich woman. Of course they didn't want Zhang Xiao to study abroad, otherwise their relationship would be broken. Seeing that Zhang Xiao was still silent and not saying a word, Xie Ping and the others felt helpless. Xie Ping winked at Li Qingqing and motioned for her to come out. The two people came to the bedroom balcony. Xie Ping asked in a low voice, Ruoxiu, do you think Juyu still has feelings for Li Yuan? Zhang Ruoxiu nodded without hesitation, that's for sure, otherwise, Xiao Yu wouldn't be so sad that she wants to study abroad. Xie Ping glanced at Zhang Xiao in the bedroom and expressed a question in her mind, Ruoxiu, do you think Li Yuan knows that Xiao is planning to go abroad? Does Li Yuan know? Zhang Ruoxiu looked stunned, pulled back her hair that was blown away by the wind, and answered uncertainly, you should know, right? Xie Ping shook her head, I don't think so. Li Yuan probably doesn't know. Zhang Ruoxiu frowned and asked, Ping Ping, how are you sure Li Yuan doesn't know? Xie Ping answered matter-of-factly, I think, if Li Yuan knew that Juyu was going to go abroad, he would have to come to our school to say goodbye to Juyu, right? Since he didn't come, there is a high probability that he doesn't know. Unless, Li Yuan is really a cold-blooded scumbag, and he doesn't want to say goodbye to Juyu even if he knows. Zhang Ruoxiu nodded and cursed fiercely, Li Yuan, this scumbag, is really blind. She is so beautiful, sings so well, is so gentle, kind, lively, and cute, but the most important thing is that she is a little rich woman. Lantern, I searched all over the Magic City, but I couldn't find a girl who was better than Juyu. Scumbag Li, he doesn't cherish young fish so much, and dares to step on a few boats. I think we should just find someone to put his body in the river and feed it to the fish. Listening to Zhang Ruoxiu's hateful scolding, Xie Ping smiled bitterly. She had a good impression of Li Yuan before, and she wanted to ask him for leave to do online literature. Ruoxiu, I think we should remind Li Yuan. See if he can do anything. I really don't want him to go abroad. After hearing this, Zhang Ruoxiu hesitated for a moment, thought about it seriously, and nodded. What you said makes sense, so let's remind Li Yuan secretly. Xie Ping looked slightly relaxed and asked, Ruoxiu, I remember that you left Li Yuan's mobile phone number that day. Send him a message. Okay, Zhang Ruoxiu replied and muttered, perhaps, Xiao is waiting for Li Yuan to arrive. I have an intuition that the relationship between the two of them will not be broken off so easily. Xiao is really in love. Li Yuan, it makes me feel a little incredible. Xie Ping pursed her lips and snickered, who says it's not the case? Even when the young fish is sleeping and dreaming, they keep talking about brother Xiahua and brother Xiahua in their dreams. Zhang Ruoxiu also smiled, Li Yuan is indeed very talented, and those songs are particularly nice. He also likes music very much, so it is normal to like him. Unfortunately, the deeper the love, the more painful the injury. Xie Ping was also very emotional. Some time ago, a few people were secretly following Li Yuan and Zhang Xiao in the playground, and saw them learning guitar together, composing music together, and singing duets. At that time, they were extremely envious, but who knew that in the blink of an eye, it would become like this? The elf girl who once looked like a pistachio in the dormitory became taciturn and even had to leave the dormitory where she had stayed for more than a year, leaving several of their good friends to study abroad in a completely unfamiliar foreign country. Just because of that person. Xie Ping sighed, "Oh, love is really a sweet poison. It can make you very sweet, but it can also make your anus and intestines rupture." Zhang Ruoxiu also whispered softly, "That's right. Originally, I was still looking forward to falling in love, but after seeing what happened to the young fish, I was already a little scared. The young fish is so good, but they are all scum. If I meet a scumbag, what should I do? It's better to stay single." Xie Ping thought about her own experience. She also had a love experience. Although it was not as bloody as Zhang Ziu's, it also brought some psychological shadow to her. Indeed, it's good to be single. At least, you will always be happy and won't experience sadness. Zhang Ruoxiu said, "No more, I'll send a text message to Li Yuan to remind him. That's all we can do. The rest depends on God's will. Sometimes, if it's not the right time, we'll miss it." Jinxia Villa. Li Yuan was lying on the bed, silently wiping away the tears from the corners of his eyes. Suddenly, he had an idea in his mind, wanting to see Xiao Yu again. If Xiao Yu really goes abroad and wants to see her again, there may be no chance. "Xiao Yu, if I go to see you, will you be willing to see me?" Li Yuan said to himself. At the book signing event that day, he sang to her in front of hundreds of readers, publishers, UND on Chinese network, and TV stations, but he failed to keep her. Is there a chance this time? He didn't have any confidence at all. Just as Li Yuan was thinking about it, suddenly, his phone vibrated slightly, and a strange message was displayed on it. "Li Yuan, this is Zhang Ruoxiu, reminding you that Ziyu is going abroad this weekend. Chapter 188. I just want to see you again, the morning shock." Li Yuan is not unfamiliar with who Zhang Ruoxiu is. When he was at Jida, he met Xiao Yu and several of her roommates, had dinner with them, and left contact information. Looking at the text message sent by Zhang Ruoxiu, just one sentence, he couldn't sit still anymore. "Xiao Yu, are you really so hurt that you want to go abroad to heal?" Li Yuan muttered to himself, his eyes looking at the dense clouds outside the window, just like his mood at the moment. Tonight, the good mood brought by coaxing Zhong Tingyu disappeared without a trace after learning that Zhang Ziyu was going abroad. Li Yuan looked at his phone, hesitated for a long time, and still replied to Zhang Ruoxiu. "Thank you, I know." After replying the message, Li Yuan looked at Zhang Ziyu's phone, and then looked at Zhong Tingyu who was sleeping soundly with her head on his thigh, and sighed faintly. In this situation, it is not appropriate to call Zhang Ziyu. What if Zhong Tingyu suddenly wakes up? He can't explain. Don't let Zhong Tingyu, who has just been coaxed, get angry again, it will be a waste of effort. Li Yuan looked at Zhang Ziyu's mobile phone number, pressed 2 fingers on the keyboard, and typed a sentence. Then, he waited quietly for Zhang Ziyu's reply. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour had passed. Unfortunately, he waited for a long time, but Zhang Ziyu did not respond. Li Yuan sighed, thought about it, made up his mind, and gently moved Zhong Tingyu's head away from his thigh. Zhong Tingyu looked really tired, sleeping very deeply, and was not awakened. Li Yuan hurriedly put on his clothes and was about to open the door to go out. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound coming from the living room. As an old driver, he instantly understood what kind of sound it was. Before, it was only in the 91 domestic area that I could see the picture, but I didn't expect to hear it in person in reality. Li Yuan looked extremely surprised, and immediately stopped, listening to the sound in the living room, feeling very incredible. In this house, there were only him, Gu Langzhen, and Zhong Tingyu mother and daughter. Needless to say, in the living room, It could only be the cheap mother-in-law who had just given him a great assist. Li Yuan stood behind the door and listened for a while. Seeing that Gu Langzhen had no intention of stopping, he was shy for the first time and hurried back to the balcony of the bedroom. At this distance, the strange sound made by the cheap mother-in-law in the living room was barely audible and left his ears. "Alas, I can't even go out to call Xiao Yu, Li Yuan muttered. He didn't know when the living room would end, so he couldn't go out at all. Perhaps, Gu Langzhen didn't expect that Li Yuan drank so much wine. After playing poker, he not only didn't sleep, but also wanted to go out. Oh, by the way, she drank a lot herself and was drunk. Looking at the dim light in the bedroom, Li Yuan drew the curtains, came to the balcony of the bedroom, took out his mobile phone, and dialed Zhang Xiao's number. Jinan University, female dormitory. After receiving the message from Li Yuan, Zhang Ruoxia curled her lips and whispered to Xie Ping. Li Yuan said he knows. Let's wait and see how he acts. If Li Yuan really cares about Xiao, he should call Xiao immediately. The most effective way is to rush over directly. Xie Ping also nodded in agreement. If a man is indifferent even when his girlfriend is going abroad, it can only mean that he does not love his girlfriend. If this is true, they can only feel sorry for Zhang Xiao. I hope Li Yuan can be more decisive now. Daxia University is not far from Arjida University. It's not even 9 o'clock in the evening now. There is still enough time. Zhang Ruoxiu sneered, maybe Li Yuan is in the bed of one of his girlfriends at this time. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 298. This scumbag has 4 girlfriends at the same time, and he's not afraid of exhausting himself. Xie Ping also smiled secretly, and the image of Li Yuan appeared in her mind. He was indeed tall and strong, and looked very stylish, the kind of muscular man. Maybe, this is Li Yuan's specialty, otherwise how could he have 4 girlfriends? Zhang Ruoxiu looked at Zhang Xiao in the bedroom, and suddenly a curious idea came to her mind. She put her head close to Xie Ping's ear and whispered, Ping Ping, do you think Xiao and Li Yuan did that? Xie Ping was slightly stunned and asked in confusion, which one are you talking about? Zhang Ruoxiu blushed and rolled her eyes at Xie Ping, Ping Ping, don't pretend not to understand, I'm talking about which one, it's a shameful thing. Xie Ping finally understood, chuckled, her face was slightly hot, and said uncertainly, I don't know, it shouldn't be? I heard that after doing that, a girl's body will change, and I think Xiao is no different from before. Zhang Ruoxiu pursed her lips tightly, a smile appeared in the corner of her eyes, and she chuckled, Ping Ping, tell me quickly, how did you know? Xie Ping blushed and answered hesitantly, I also saw it on the internet. It may be nonsense, not necessarily true. Zhang Ruoxiu nodded and whispered, a girl's first time is very precious. If Xiao has given it to Li Yuan, I guess she will never get over it. Alas, Xiao just met the wrong person, which will definitely cause psychological trauma. The scumbag really deserves to be cut into pieces. Xie Ping sighed and then sighed. In the future, if I fall in love, I will not let myself fall into it easily, and I will leave the most precious things for the day of marriage. Zhang Ruoxiu shook her head, in this situation, who can say for sure? Sometimes, feelings are unreasonable and it is difficult to remain rational. Once impulsive or accidentally touched, you may give yourself up completely. The two chatted and waited for Li Yuan's response until almost half an hour passed. Even if they rushed over from Daxia University, they should have arrived long ago. However, they still did not see Li Yuan's figure, and even Zhang Xiao's phone did not ring once. Zhang Ruoxiu's face was very gloomy and angrily cursed, Li Yuan, this dead scumbag, can't he have no heart for Xiao at all? I reminded him that Xiao was going abroad, but he didn't act quickly. Xie Ping frowned and replied, wait a little longer, Maybe Li Yuan was delayed by something. Humph, no matter how busy he is, can't he even have time to make a phone call? He just doesn't have Xiao in his heart. The more Zhang Ruoxiu thought about it, the more she felt sorry for her best friend. Maybe he is enjoying himself in the gentle embrace of some vixen. While Zhang Ruoxiu was cursing angrily, a familiar ringtone suddenly sounded in the bedroom. If I look at you again, will I still feel the same way as when I was barefaced? On a rainy day, I still went shopping and laughed at others for their makeup. Zhang Ruoxiu, Xie Pingping, and Li Qingqing were all familiar with this ringtone. After the chorus at the welcome party that day, Zhang Xiu edited the part of the chorus and used it as her own cell phone ringtone. At that time, they all joked and said that this was Zhang Xiu's exclusive love ringtone. Zhang Ruoxiu breathed a sigh of relief and muttered, "Li Yuan, that damn scumbag, finally called me. Let's go over and see what Li Yuan said." The two hurried back to the bedroom and came to Zhang Xiu's side. They looked at her bag. Li Yuan's voice was constantly ringing in the cell phone ringtone. Zhang Ruoxiu mustered up her courage and carefully took out her phone from Zhang Xiu's bag. She glanced at the caller and saw the caller's name clearly on the phone. As she expected, the caller's name was Brother Xiaohua. Zhang Ruoxiu handed the phone to Zhang Xiu and whispered, "Xiu, your phone is ringing." Zhang Xiu stared blankly at the phone in Zhang Ruoxiu's hand and the caller's name on it. She was stunned and silent, and did not reach out to answer the call. Seeing this, Xie Ping could not help but whisper a reminder, "Xiu, answer the call and listen to what he is going to say. You can give yourself an explanation." Li Qingqing was also persuading her, "Yes, Xiu, listen to his answer and then make a decision. There is no need to go abroad. I heard that the ugly country is very chaotic and discriminates against us. It would be great to stay in China. You have good sisters like us to accompany you." Zhang Xiu listened to the persuasion of her three roommates and heard the familiar ringtone. The chorus she sang with him at the welcome party that day was the happiest moment of her life, and the sweet dream that happened in the sports car afterwards was so touching that it was like being in the clouds. But now, the dream that immersed her in it was completely shattered, and she had to wake up from it and face this reality. In fact, when she first went to Daxia University and met Li Yuan, she knew that Li Yuan might have a girlfriend. After all, in her heart, Li Yuan was so outstanding, talented, tall, and handsome. It would be abnormal if no girl liked him. It's just that she didn't want to believe it, and she kept deceiving herself, actively avoiding it, and never took the initiative to bring up this topic. She just kept showing her love for Li Yuan, and Li Yuan also gave her a clear response, which made her have the illusion that Li Yuan didn't have other girlfriends. But pretending to be deaf and dumb and blinded by one leaf will eventually be exposed. When the facts were placed in front of her, the woven dream was completely shattered. In the atmosphere of three pairs of eyes staring at one pair of eyes, the ringing sound of more than 30 seconds passed quickly, the phone stopped vibrating, and the beautiful chorus disappeared. Xie Ping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and Li Qingqing looked at each other, and all showed helpless bitter smiles. If Zhang Xiu was unwilling to answer Li Yuan's call, they could only worry. Xie Ping rolled up her hair and persuaded her again seriously. "Xiu, my sincere advice is that you have to think clearly. Even if you break up, there is no need to go abroad." Before she finished speaking, Zhang Xiu's phone rang again, interrupting her. The three people cast their eyes on Zhang Xiu at the same time, waiting for her reaction. After ringing for a while, Zhang Xiu suddenly moved. She reached out and took the phone from Zhang Ruoxiu. Under the nervous and expectant gaze of her three roommates, Xie Ping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and Li Qingqing, Zhang Xiu pressed the answer button expressionlessly. Li Yuan's voice immediately rang out from the other end of the phone. "Xiao Yuer, are you okay?" Zhang Xiu said softly. "I'm sorry." This was Li Yuan's second sentence. Zhang Xiu did not answer, but tears were already flashing in her eyes. Li Yuan saw that Zhang Ziyu did not answer, and was silent for a moment before he mustered up the courage to say the third sentence. Can you give me a chance to apologize to you in person? Zhang Ziyu was stunned when he heard this. Xieping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and the other two beside him had already pricked up their ears and listened to what Li Yuan said on the phone with unprecedented seriousness and care. Ziyu, agree quickly. Xieping stared at Zhang Ziyu, constantly urging her in her heart, but on the surface, she did not even dare to breathe, holding her breath, waiting for Zhang Ziyu's answer. Before Zhang Ziyu could answer, Li Yuan's voice came from the other end of the phone. Ziyu, I have one last song for you. Can you see me again? Zhang Ziyu's body trembled suddenly when she heard that Li Yuan was going to give her another song, and her phone almost fell to the ground. Xieping also heard what Li Yuan said, and her heart was in turmoil. She couldn't help but look forward to it. Tisk tisk, you are indeed a great talent. You don't need to think about the creative inspirations one after another. The key is that every song he wrote is so beautiful. Confession balloon, no makeup, just met you, each of them is a divine song that can dominate the major music charts for a long time. What kind of song will Li Yuan's last song for Ziyu be? Is it to express love, or the sadness of parting? Not only Xieping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and Li Qingqing also had the same idea, and they were all full of expectations. Li Yuan is a bit of a scumbag, but in terms of talent, he is absolutely impeccable. This time, Zhang Ziyu did not remain silent. She nodded softly to the other end of the phone to indicate her agreement. Then, she hung up the phone. Seeing Zhang Ziyu's agreement, Xieping, Zhang Ruoxiu, and Li Qingqing all showed relieved expressions. If Zhang Ziyu continued to refuse, they really didn't know what to do. Xieping hurried forward and put her arm around Zhang Ziyu's shoulders. Ziyu, this is the right thing to do. No matter what, you should always give each other a chance to explain. Zhang Ruoxiu also said gently, yes, even if you really break up, don't turn love into hatred and escape abroad. Listen to what Li Yuan says first. Li Qingqing looked at Zhang Ziyu with expectation and said something from her heart. Ziyu, including this time, Li Yuan has written 4 songs for you. He is very attentive to you. Thank you, Zhang Ziyu spoke calmly, and even the dimples on both sides of his face disappeared faintly. Li Yuan was relieved when Zhang Ziyu agreed. Just as he was about to say something, he heard a busy tone. Li Yuan was stunned, and then sighed. This was the first time since he and Zhang Ziyu met that the other party hung up the phone. In the countless calls before, he was the one who took the initiative to end the chat, and Zhang Ziyu would always reluctantly say okay, brother Ziyu, goodbye. Li Yuan returned to the bedroom with complicated thoughts, took off his clothes, and quietly lay on the bed. At this time, Zhong Tingyu suddenly moved her body, stretched out her arms in a daze, and hugged his arm. There was still a trace of tears in the corners of her eyes, her eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and she spit a bubble from her seductive red lips, as if she was mumbling. Senior, hey. Don't leave me. Okay. I love you so much. Hey. Kiss, I want a kiss. Li Yuan listened to Zhong Tingyu's dream talk, leaned down, and gently kissed Zhong Tingyu's forehead. As if she felt something, Zhong Tingyu's mouth suddenly had an unconscious smile, and her wrinkled forehead also stretched out, as if she suddenly felt much more at ease. Li Yuan looked at this scene, and his eyes once again showed a complex color. Zhong Tingyu's dream talk proved her inner tension and anxiety. He suddenly fell into self-doubt. Is it really right for him to do this? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 299. Just for possession, but hurt these good girls. Although he kept saying, good girls, don't let them down, bad girls, don't waste them. But what he did was exactly the opposite of what he said. He didn't touch any of the bad girls. And Xia's Haijin, Zhong Tingyu, and Zhang Ziyu, 3 good girls, he has failed. What's this? So much so that now, he is engaged in a psychological struggle every day and often blames himself and feels guilty. If we just talk to a few bad girls, why would we need to worry about these things? Heh, it's better to talk to some bad girls who worship money, and you don't have to worry about your heart, so you don't have to feel so tired. Be my philandering scumbag, be my groom every night, develop various postures, and experience all the things you have never done in your previous life. Isn't it delicious? It's okay. Let's go to the club for a massage, add an extra hour, and listen to those girls who were born in such pitiable backgrounds. How about that? Isn't it fun to go to bars, yachts, concerts, and business KTVs to be cool? Li Yuan beat his heart over and over again, but in the end, he found that he might actually have an inexplicable expectation for that kind of pure emotion in his heart. Therefore, I can't help but invest in true feelings in this period of love. Xia's Haijin, Zhong Tingyu, Zhang Ziyu, every girl is like this. Even Bai Wuxi, who hurt herself so badly in her previous life, felt a little more concerned about her after taking her first blood, and sometimes she couldn't help but miss her. Does this count as me being a cousin and having to erect an archway? Perhaps, in other people's minds, this is how they evaluate me. That night, Li Yuan thought about it for a long time. Only when he was completely drunk did he fall asleep in a daze. Early the next morning, Li Yuan rubbed his eyes drowsily. When he opened his eyes, he saw that Zhong Tingyu had long disappeared beside him, but he could vaguely hear the whispers in the living room. Li Yuan got up and came out of the bedroom. He saw Zhong Tingyu's face, which was red for some unknown reason and looked very shy. Staring at Li Yuan, he greeted shyly, "Li Yuan, are you up?" "Yeah," Li Yuan smiled, feeling that Zhong Tingyu seemed to be particularly shy now. He glanced at Gu Langzhen and guessed that maybe his mother-in-law had whispered something to Zhong Tingyu. As if nothing was wrong, Gu Langzhen nodded at Li Yuan with a smile and said hello. "Xiao Li, breakfast is ready. You should wash up first. After dinner, you can go to school together." "Well, okay, Aunt Gu," Li Yuan smiled and nodded, trying not to look at the other person as much as possible. If he hadn't heard Gu Langzhen's strange voice in the living room last night, he really wouldn't have known that this lady who looked like a graceful and luxurious lady would do that kind of thing alone. I can only sigh with emotion, it is indeed the age of a wolf and a tiger. After breakfast, Li Yuan held Zhong Tingyu's hand and walked in the Jinxia Villa community. Zhong Tingyu glanced at the house in front of her, staring at Li Yuan with her beautiful eyes, but hesitated to speak. The little hand held by Li Yuan was already sweating. Li Yuan noticed Zhong Tingyu's strange behavior and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Little Moon, what's wrong with you?" Zhong Tingyu panicked and quickly shook her head. "Ah, I'm fine." "Is everything okay?" Li Yuan asked again. "Senior, it really doesn't happen." Zhong Tingyu still forced the question he wanted to ask back into his stomach. Just as Li Yuan was about to speak, he suddenly saw Zhong Tingyu looking secretly at the building in front of him. His expression was slightly startled, and while he was wondering, he suddenly thought of a possibility. The building in front is his real home, where his parents and Li Zixia live. Some time ago, after his mother returned to her hometown, he brought Xia's Haijin to stay for a while. Xia's Haijin was also the first to enter his real home. Secondly, there was Bai Wuxi a few days ago. According to his sister Li Zixia, Bai Wuxi also came to this house. But Zhong Tingyu shouldn't know. Li Yuan always felt that he seemed to have missed something. Just when he was thinking about how to explain it to Zhong Tingyu, suddenly, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. "Brother, what a coincidence. Li Zixia, Li Yuan listened to his sister's voice and replied subconsciously. When he looked up, he saw Li Zixia carrying a school bag and walking toward him with a look of surprise. Li Zixia met Zhong Tingyu a few days ago. At that time, she guessed that this very beautiful and elegant girl must have an inexplicable relationship with her brother. When I saw it today, it turned out to be true. Li Zixia winked at Li Yuan, as if to say, "Brother, quickly introduce the sister-in-law to me." Li Yuan didn't understand Li Zixia's eyes and looked at the time. It was already 7:30 in the morning. He thought Li Zixia was late, so he frowned and scolded. "Zixia, what's the matter with you? Are you late again?" Li Zixia muttered dissatisfied and replied, "Brother, our school has a new rule that there are no morning reading classes, and the official class does not start until 8 o'clock. You don't care about me at all. I'm still not your biological sister." After Li Zixia complained, she looked at Zhong Tingyu, shouted sweetly, and stretched out a small hand. "Sister, hello, my name is Li Zixia, I'm my brother's sister." Chapter 189, The Touched Zhong Tingyu, Li Yuan's fierce counterattack. Li Zixia's mood at this time was very strange. When she met Zhong Tingyu a few days ago, she was still wondering whether this beautiful sister in front of her had a relationship with her brother, and what kind of relationship. Today, in her own community, she saw the two of them coming out together, and the key was holding hands. This means that the two must have spent the night together last night. Sisters, who understands, I suddenly have another sister-in-law. Li Zixia thought in her heart that if she told the little sisters in the class about her brother's situation, they probably wouldn't believe it. She suddenly thought of Xia's Haijin and Baiwuxi, whom she had met before. Among them, Baiwuxi's sister-in-law and the beautiful sister in front of her should know each other, as if they were classmates. This complicated relationship made her little head suddenly confused and a little out of service. Fortunately, she was still very smart and didn't want to stand in line anymore, so she let her scumbag brother worry about it. "No, sisters Haijin, you will always be the first in my heart." Li Zixia's mind was full of thoughts. Hearing Li Zixia's sweet call of sister, Zhong Tingyu looked a little flustered and strange and quickly reached out her hand and shook Li Zixia's hand. Zixia, hello, my name is Zhong Tingyu, your brother's friend." Zhong Tingyu greeted shyly, and was a little nervous. Her heartbeat was constantly accelerating, and her tone was a little awkward. When introducing, she still didn't directly say the word girlfriend. A few days ago, she met the little girl in front of her in another identity. Or should she call her sister-in-law? Li Yuan also felt something was wrong, and his eyes looked back and forth between his sister and Zhong Tingyu. They seemed to know each other? Huge doubts filled his heart. Li Yuan asked directly, "Zixia, have you met your sister-in-law before?" Li Zixia glanced at his stupid brother and replied with a smile, "Yeah, I just met Sister Tingyu a few days ago." Li Yuan continued to ask, "Also here?" Li Zixia nodded. When Zhong Tingyu heard Li Yuan directly say the word sister-in-law, she looked at Li Yuan with deep affection, tucked her hair on her forehead, and her flawless white face was flushed a little. In the early morning sun, it shone more brilliantly, and explained in a low voice. "That day, my mother and I came here to stay together. At noon, we met Zixia and..." Zhong Tingyu did not say Baiwuxi's name, but just glanced at Li Yuan with the corner of her eye. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 300. Give you a look, and understand it yourself. Li Yuan saw Zhong Tingyu's sour expression, and understood it instantly. It turned out that when he didn't know, Zhong Tingyu and his mother-in-law met his sister and another girlfriend. That is, I don't know if it was Xia's Haijin or Baiwuxi. It's probably Baiwuxi. Li Yuan can already imagine that kind of scene. Li Zixia stared at Zhong Tingyu for a few times, and couldn't help wondering in her heart. The figures and faces of Xia's Haijin and Baiwixi suddenly appeared in her mind. Then she looked at her scumbag brother, who was just a little handsome. She really couldn't understand why her brother's girlfriends were all so beautiful. They were the three most beautiful girls she had ever seen in her life, and they were completely different types. More beautiful than most female stars, perhaps only a few female stars are more beautiful than these three. Could my brother have used a cheat to attract beautiful girls? The more beautiful the girl, the more attractive he is. Otherwise, there is no way to explain why my stinky brother can find three fairy sisters. He is lucky to find one. Li Zixia muttered in his heart. I feel that if I write a novel about my experience, it will definitely be a big hit. The title of the book is My Scumbag Brother's Beautiful Girlfriends. Also, sisters Haijin and sister Wuxi, do they know that my brother is cheating on multiple women? How does my brother deal with it? Sisters Haijin scored more than 650 points in the college entrance examination. Sister Wuxi also scored more than 640 points. Such excellent and smart girls, don't they find anything unusual? As a high school student, and just in the first year of high school, Li Zixia still has a heavy study task. She doesn't often go online and visit various forums. She didn't know that Li Yuan's cheating behavior had been exposed long ago. She was still secretly worried about Li Yuan, afraid that his cheating behavior would be exposed. A mess of thoughts flashed through her mind, and Li Zixia, carrying her school bag, smiled and said, Sister Tingyu, are you and my brother going back to school? Yes, there are classes today. Zhong Tingyu also responded with a smile, calculated the time, and asked curiously. Zixia, are you going to class now? I heard from your brother that he is in the first year of high school now. Li Zixia smiled, yes, I am in the first year of high school in Daxia High School next to the community. Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Zixia going to school alone, and hesitated a little. She mustered up the courage and asked hesitantly. Zixia, are you alone at home? Li Zixia rolled her eyes at Li Yuan and muttered in her heart. There is also a stinky brother who doesn't come home all day and night. Looking at Zhong Tingyu, she smiled and nodded, yes, there is also my brother, but he is busy like a national patriarch every day, and only comes home once in a while. Most of the time, I am alone at home. Zhong Tingyu glanced at Li Yuan from the corner of her eye. Seeing his embarrassed expression, she suddenly remembered that Li Yuan spent the night with her last night. Doesn't that mean that Li Zixia is a little girl, alone at home pitifully? What does she eat? Does she buy food all the time? At such a young age, she shouldn't know how to cook. The high school curriculum is quite tight. There are morning reading classes and evening self-study classes every day. Also, where are Li Yuan's parents? Why aren't they with him? With his wealth, he doesn't need his parents to go out to work. If it doesn't work, hire a nanny for Zixia. Zhong Tingyu had many doubts in her heart, lingering in her heart, and couldn't help but secretly glance at Li Yuan again. Li Yuan felt Zhong Tingyu's strange eyes, coughed awkwardly, and explained. Don't worry, Zixia can cook by herself. My parents went back to their hometown some time ago, and my mother should be back in the next 2 days. Before Li Yuan finished speaking, he was interrupted by Li Zixia, staring with bright big eyes, very speechless. Brother, can you be more careful? Mom has already taken the car, and we will be in the Magic City at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Come today. Li Yuan was stunned. He didn't remember this time. Did he remember the time wrong? In the past few days, he has experienced too many things and has been thinking about how to deal with the relationship between several girlfriends, which makes his mind a little confused. Li Zixia snorted and said dissatisfiedly. Brother, when you are free, can't you call your parents to show concern? Mom said that she has nothing to do at home and is more worried about us, So she came back 2 days earlier. You have no conscience. You haven't called your parents for half a month, right? Li Yuan touched his nose awkwardly. Well, okay, I will drive to the station to pick her up at noon. Zhong Tingyu was listening to the quarrel between the brother and sister quietly, feeling very interesting and envious. Perhaps, only Li Yuan's sister can be so unscrupulous to the man next to Xiang. Just because he and she are siblings. She is an only child. Her mother has only her as a daughter. She has heard of many other half-brothers and sisters. Just because of her status, she had no feelings for her brothers and sisters, and even had very few contacts, which made them no different from strangers. So, she envied the relationship between Li Yuan and Li Zixia. Li Zixia looked at his watch and saw that it was already 7:50, and he exclaimed, "Brother, sister, I'm going to be late. I have to go to school quickly. I won't talk to you anymore." After saying that, he glanced at Zhong Tingyu again and said something on purpose. He, Sister Tingyu, come and play with me when you are free." Zhong Tingyu was a little surprised and nodded quickly, feeling a little strange in her heart. Okay. Li Zixia emphasized again, "Sister, you must come and play with me more when you are free. I live in this building." After saying that, without waiting for Zhong Tingyu to look back, he directly carried his school bag and trotted away quickly. Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Zixia's departing back, her heartbeat slightly accelerated, and she suddenly felt a little more happy in her heart. Could it be because of the affirmation from her sister-in-law? Seeing Li Zixia walking away, Li Yuan coughed lightly and reached out to hold Zhong Tingyu's hand. Ahem, Xiao Yueliang, Zixia's personality has changed a lot recently, and she speaks without respect. Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips and chuckled, with a tone of envy, "I think it's good, you two have a really good relationship." Li Yuan heard the envy in Zhong Tingyu's tone. He also knew her family background. Under such circumstances, he may not have experienced the relationship between brothers and sisters since he was a child. "Xiao Yueliang, when you are free in the future, you can come to find Zixia to play and tutor her homework. She is so stupid, and she just transferred to the Magic City to study. She uses new textbooks and can't keep up with the pace. She is lagging behind in all subjects." Zhong Tingyu heard that Li Yuan wanted her to help with homework, and the corners of her eyes were crescent-shaped, and she nodded with a smile. "Senior, my English grades are still pretty good. If Zixia is willing, I can help her tutor." English happened to be Li Yuan's weak spot. His English grades have always been poor. Hearing this, his eyes lit up and he asked with some curiosity in his heart, "Xiao Yueliang, how many points did you get in English in the college entrance examination?" Zhong Tingyu smiled and said a number, 145. 145. Such a high score, Li Yuan widened his eyes and couldn't help but swear. He only scored 102 points in English in the college entrance examination, 43 points lower than Zhong Tingyu. Although there is a difference in the difficulty of the test papers in Hubei province and Jiangsu province, in terms of English level alone, he is indeed at least 3 levels behind Zhong Tingyu. 100-120 is considered the same level, 120-140 is considered one level, and above 140 is another level. It was the first time that Zhong Tingyu saw Li Yuan's shocked expression. All along, in her impression, Li Yuan was calm and had a mature and confident demeanor. Since she met Li Yuan has been constantly surprising her and everyone around him. Sometimes, she felt that Li Yuan's perfection was a little unreal. Today, after seeing Li Yuan's shocked expression, Zhong Tingyu's eyes flashed with a strange light. This expression made her feel that Li Yuan had become real, with joy, anger, sorrow, and joy, as well as shock and humor. Li Yuan stared at Zhong Tingyu and smiled, "Little moon, Xixia's English is just like mine, very average, and her English grades will be handed over to you in the future. Yeah, no problem. Zhong Tingyu nodded, and when she talked about her own strengths, she had a little more confidence between her eyebrows. It's not difficult to improve English grades, as long as you find the right method, just like various grammars and words. In fact, as long as you really understand them, it's very simple. Li Yuan felt dizzy after hearing this. He had never been interested in English, and even after being reborn, he was too lazy to learn it. We're almost late, let's talk while walking. Yeah. Today, Li Yuan didn't drive a sports car, but his own BMW X6.